Hi, it's Andy again, and I'm doing a tutorial today on sliding menus. So there's a sliding menu library out there that allows you to add a menu list behind your current view. And you may have seen this in the new Google Plus app, the YouTube app. There's several other third-party apps that also use a similar library or this library. I'm actually not quite sure if they're actually implementing it, but I know it's widely used. Um, by the way, Google uses their own. They didn't use this library, but they do something very similar. And the way it looks is, so you have your main activity, whatever, or your main view, whatever you're looking at, and then what you do is you can drag and create another menu item right here with basically a list, and this is fully themable just like any other list view. I'm going to show you how to do this where you actually create the button, your icon, as an actual button to open up and close it. But you can also drag from here, and there's different settings on whether or not you can drag from, let's say, here to open it, or if you have to use right on the edge, like right over here, in order to, and that's called the margin, or if you have to hit the menu bar in order to open it. So I'm going to show you the code, show you the example that they give you, and my example is going to be bits and pieces of their example, and it's just going to be kind of a simplistic code for that. So I'm going to run the example that's included with the library, and it basically is showing you all your options. So if you go into properties, this kind of sort of breaks down how this menu item works. So you have, if you want a menu item to the left, you select left. If you want it to the right, you can do that. Or you can actually have two menu items. You can have both left and right. So that's what this is. If you want to be consistent with other apps, for the most part, left only. Some apps like Facebook has a similar thing where it has a menu item on the left and a menu item on the right. But for the most part, most apps just have one menu, and that's on the left. Now, this is what I was talking about, whether the full screen, meaning you can grab anywhere on the screen and move it over to expose it. The margin is you have to grab right on the edge to move it, because if you grab over here, it's not going to do anything. Or none, which no matter what, if you grab it there, grab it on the edge, you have to basically implement the button. And I'll show you how to implement the button. It's actually pretty easy once I figured out how to do it. Now, these basically are going to show you how you can adjust. Like, this is a little slider to show you the scale. So let's show you what it looks like with a low scale or a high scale. Sorry. See how, like, when there's no scale, it's already there. It doesn't really slide in. See, like, boom, it's already behind there, and you're just moving on top of it. However, if you set the scale high, it's basically like another page, and it slides in from another page. Alright, we'll set that. Now, if you don't want a shadow, which is, see how there's no shadow here. If you do want a shadow, you can enable it. This is a large shadow, which expands through most of the list. You can change the shadow so that it's very short. And then the fade. So we'll take away the shadow. And the fade is that part right there where it's, see how it fades in and out? If we turn this all the way down, there is no fade. Alright, so this is basically the options that you have for designing your sliding menu. Now you can also customize the list, so that's a separate tutorial, and it has nothing to do with the actual sliding menu. That would be creating a whole new list adapter and doing that. That's kind of how they get the different backgrounds, different text colors. All that is done through a custom list adapter. Okay, so let's dig into what other options they provide for you. You can use this with a view pager. So a view pager is basically a swipey tabs without the tab. That's exactly how that swipey tabs works. It's mixed between a tabs and a view pager. So that's what the view pager is. Let's see. Let's do. You can change the fragments. This is kind of how I've had it in apps in the past, where you have your own little. Each list item will change the fragment that's visible. If you dig into their code, they don't really do changing of fragments like it shows. What they're actually doing is they just change the background of the current fragment. So if you want to actually change the fragment, you can set a on list item, click, and then set up your individual fragment classes, and then do kind of how I did in the list fragment tutorial. All you're doing is the exact same thing. You're just providing it towards the list that's here. And then let's see, what else do we have? So this responsive UI, this one looks different on a tablet versus a phone. If you are using a tablet, you have a lot more real estate. So what it does is it allows you to have the list here as a drag behind option on a phone, but on a tablet, it would just be a persistent list on the left. And I can kind of show you what that looks like if you want. Let me change my target. So let's run it on a larger tablet so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so it's this responsive UI. And you notice how the list is persisting here. Versus on the phone, it's a drop behind menu. So if you want to dig into the code for that, that's how to set up basically you're going to be setting up like on the dual pane example that I have, where you're looking to see if the item's in landscape mode, or you create different layouts. Like this is a layout for an extra large screen, and you basically use you use the sliding menu if there's a small screen, or you ignore it and just use two separate fragments if you have an extra large screen. So that's basically how that layout works, and you can dig into the code to figure out how to use that. It's pretty easily followable here. What I wanted to show you is a little example on how to get it to work for you. First thing you're going to need to do if you're going to use it with Action Bar Sherlock, if you go onto the website, and I'll provide the link of where to download this library, you're going to have to change one of your files in here into the library, into the sliding menu. You're going to have to, or not sliding menu, sorry. It's in, yeah, sliding fragment activity. You need to change this to Sherlock fragment activity. By default, it's just a regular fragment activity. So if you're going to use Action Bar Sherlock, you need to include this here as well. So we'll just not save that. And then that's the only thing you need to change on the library if you're going to use it. If not, just leave it as is. Import your library into your example activity, and then also Action Bar Sherlock if you're going to use it. So to go into the one that I've created for you is we're going to have 4 different classes, 4 different XML files, and to create the shadow, I'm including the exact same shadow parameters that they provide in the in their example. So that's going to be this one that we're going to reference into the code. Also, we're going to be using a menu, and that's kind of how to. I haven't really gone into how to use the menus, but you're going to be using that in order to make this this icon clickable. Okay, so your meat and potatoes is going to be this base activity. You're going to want to create this one first and then do your main activity afterwards. So this is going to be your Sherlock fragment activity. We're going to create this integer of mTitle res. It's actually referenced in the main activity here. The whole thing just sets up the fact that you're going to use the app name inside the action bar. But it is required. You have to initialize the class in order for you to do it, and that's how that works. So yeah. So here's what it works: is you're setting the title of the action bar to the mTitle res. So first, we're going to set the behind content view, and basically it's just a blank frame layout with the ID of menu frame, and we're just going to reference it here. We're going to say that when we load on create of the activity, we're going to be beginning the transaction of creating a new list. So I created this random list class. It's just 5 list items inside the list adapter, and I just use a standard Android simple list item 1. So there's nothing special about this. When you click it, nothing happens. Here you would add if you wanted to change the classes, you would add on list item click afterwards, a whole method on that. So we're referencing the list here because it's the behind content view. So then we're going to replace the menu frame with this list, with this fragment now, this list fragment. And then we're going to initialize a sliding menu. These are integers that they had specified in the example app, but instead of creating a whole dimensions thing, XML, you can just specify it if you don't use res. If you just use the set shadow width, they're in pixels already, so you're already set. So instead of doing behind offset res, where you have to refer to an XML file, you can just use the pixels by just taking the res part out of it. So the shadow, we're setting the shadow, and that's this XML file here. And then the fade degree, I left it at their default of 0.35. Also, here's where you would change the touch mode. Full screen, like I said, it is where you can grab anywhere on the screen and open up the menu. If you want to see what the other options look like, you have touch mode full screen, touch mode margin, where you have to grab from the edge, or none, where basically that you can only activate that menu by hitting the button. And I'll show you how to use that button. It's actually the next item. After we need to set that action bar button as clickable, so that's what this set display home as up enabled. We need to set that as true if you want to use it. You can set it as false if you don't want to use it. And then by default it's going to use your application icon anyway, but if you wanted to switch a different icon, this is how you would do it. Let's see. Okay, so here's the meat and potatoes for using that button. We're going to create a menu item. By default, that button's name is android.r.id.home. and all you need to do is enter in a toggle. That's all you do, and that button will now act as an open and close for that sliding menu. And then you have to inflate a menu. So I have nothing in this menu, so it's just blank. If you go to menu, that's this activity main, which is automatically created, but it's empty. If you wanted to add menu items, that gets added to your action bar over here. All right, and then we need the pager adapter. So this is going to be the how your menu opens. It's a modified view pager. So here's your add tab, get item, get count. These are all standard on a view pager. And all we're doing is setting the adapter to this activity. You have to use fragment manager and then a view pager, and all you're doing is for pages less than 0 to 3, which the max you can put is 2. So that's why they use 3. You can also do mfragments.size if you wanted to there. It doesn't really matter. Either one of those works. We're adding the tab of random list. But if you wanted to add a second one, this is where you would do it. If you wanted to do left and right. Okay, so that's your base activity. Your main activity is very similar looking. What we want to do is basically we add different parameters here for if the saved instance state is not empty or null. We want to set the content to mcontent, and then start a new main view, which is this. It's another blank fragment as a starting point. They're just placeholders. The list which we've referenced is just a regular list view with nothing in it. Now if you want to use the standard list as this, you have to give it this specific name right here. If we cut this out and then save it, your list view shows nothing. So you want to give it this name if you're going to use a standard list view. Alright, and I added a divider and divider height. If you want to use that, that's what these little lines right here. It's set at a pixel, a 1 density and independent pixel width or height. So the we basically starting this main view is basically going to be your default view when you launch up the app, which is this hello world. I didn't even change the one that comes default as your activity main. Okay, so we're going to set the content view as the content frame, and we're going to replace the blank content frame with our main view. And then we're going to set the behind content view, which is a blank menu frame, with our random list view. We set the touch mode to full screen and the set sliding action bar as enabled. What this does is when we run it as true, the action bar moves with the first page. If we set it to false, which I'll show you that. When the action bar is persistent. So that's a nifty way to do that. What you can also do is you can add a separate action bar attached to the list. Basically, instead of it dragging across, what it would do is just refresh the icons here, which is also a pretty neat thing to do. Okay, so we'll set this back to true. Alright, and we need to set an out state. We'll put the fragment of M content there, and then this switch content, it's not really used yet, but if you what this is put in place for is when you want to use the the list to switch fragments, like in their example. I guess it's not exactly the same since they don't really switch fragments, but if you were to switch fragments, you just add this switch content into your list, your random list on the list item click, and when you click on an item, it replaces it and then closes the list again, and you can still access that list again. I have this in an app that I'm working on, and when you implement this switch content into your list activity as well, or your list fragment, it'll switch back. So you have one going one way and one going the other way. All right, and that's pretty much it. And don't forget to switch your theme to Sherlock if you're going to use Action Bar Sherlock. All right, that's it for sliding action bar. And